Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are all doing amazing and taking care of yourselves. Anyway, so let's get into this, okay? We're not gonna beat around the bush too much. We're just gonna get into it, okay? Today we're going to talk about the new Earth, okay, and the 5D world, right? The 5D Earth that has been created already, okay? It has been created because of the fact that people's awareness has expanded, right? And of course, I believe it has to do with something that also relates to, you know, God's will, right? Our Creator's will. It doesn't just happen simply, because we decided that it will happen, right? Or perhaps it was our wish to search for the truth, right? But ultimately, as they say, right? Many are called, few are chosen, right? And I believe those that are chosen to awaken to the new world or to the new to Christ consciousness are ultimately they have to be renewed, right? So this process, as I told you in one of my videos, right, one of my spiritual awakening videos, I told you that I was asked a question, right, and that question was, do you want to walk in the light, or do you want to continue being in the darkness, right? And of course, I made a decision, right, or a conscious decision to say, yes, I want to walk in the light, right? And so that was the day when my life completely changed, right, and did a 360. So I believe the Creator has to transform you. It's not just you deciding to transform, okay? So ultimately, you can we basically we get to decide to an extent, right? But ultimately, it's all in God's hands, and He's the one who makes the final decision for us. Okay, He's the one with the magic wand to make the transition happen, or to turn us into, from caterpillars, right, as in the 3D matrix, right, and into butterflies where we can fly, right, as in the 5D, right? So ultimately, we of course have to do the work. Yeah, we have to ask the questions. We have to be truth seekers in order to find the truth and to get to the truth. But ultimately, it's not up to us. It's in God's hands, whether we can transition to that final stage or not, right? And I believe, I wouldn't say all of us, right? As this becomes kind of obvious that a lot of people, they're stuck in certain patterns. They're stuck in certain ways of being, right? They're stuck in this 3D matrix, and they become agents to the system, right? As in, they don't question things. They're comfortable, right? They're doing whatever they're doing, and they're just used to a certain lifestyle, and they're not really looking for growth, right? And an example of this is the boomers generation, right? A lot of people in that generation, I would hate to villainify that generation, right? But a lot of, perhaps, the fact that they are the way that they are, right, is not even their fault to an extent, right? But I would say that people in that generation were a bit more limited. And so, in turn, they just lived their lives, right? They did what they had to do. They worked, one job for the rest of their lives, and they just they lived and they died, and that's it, right? They didn't question anything. They didn't try to necessarily raise their awareness, right? Expand their consciousness. They did what they did, and they did what they were used to doing, and they followed cultural norms, societal conditioning, and they were good with that, right? Anyway, so no, but this is the new world, right? And the new world, right, that we're living in right now, and these are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful times, guys. Okay, because basically, we're living in a completely different world. We're living in a completely different era, okay? And the split has been happening, I believe, since maybe like 2012, I would say, because that's when the Mayan calendar ended, right? It's 2012. So the Mayans predicted that it would be the end of the world, right? As we know it. Yes, and that's exactly what it was, right? But not in a physical sense, right? As you guys can tell, we're still alive, right? And so we're still here, right? But are we still here, really, right? Are we still in the 3D world, right? Well, it depends, right? It depends on your personal consciousness and awareness, right? It depends on your awareness level. It depends on your consciousness. It depends on which timeline you're at. Were you able to transition from a lower way of being to a higher way of being? That question depends on you, right? So like I said in one of my other videos, right, we can be living in on the same earth plane, right? I would say on the same physical earth, but we can be operating in completely different states of being, states of consciousness, right? We can have completely different energy levels, right? And so on. So that makes us basically live in that separates us, and that puts us that ultimately gives us that way of living, brings forth experiences that are completely different, right? And I will go a little bit more in depth about that with you a bit later on, I think. But anyway, so this is what I was going to talk about, okay? So basically the idea of, the 3D world, the 3D matrix world, right? Where everyone is controlled by fear, right? You're living through your mind purely, right? You don't recognize your emotions as much. You don't recognize that you are a spiritual being, right? You're a spirit having this human experience, right? The 3D world is where you identify with whichever identity you've created for yourself, right? Be it a teacher, be it a lawyer, be it a doctor, right? Or whatever you are in this 3D matrix, right? So your egoic mind, is very much still living in this illusion, right, of who you are, right? And it's like I said, the boomer generation. Many of them, or most of them, they didn't have enough information available to them, right? Although I believe if we go within, right, we have all the information at our fingertips, right? If we only tap in and tune in, right? But a lot of even I think the people that were tuned in, right, it was just not socially acceptable yet. Not enough people were awakened and aware, and not enough people were ready for the information at hand. Okay, even if you did possess this information, I think a lot of people were just too afraid to speak out, okay, and to talk about it because they were afraid to be, thrown in an asylum or something, or thrown, into a nut house, right? And so I don't know. I think it was a lot more dangerous to speak out then in their generation, right, in comparison to now, okay? Now, because of all the information, because of the internet, which actually, awakened and allowed this new not this new idea, but it allowed this seemingly wacky information that was unacceptable before to finally be integrated into our consciousness, okay, into our collective consciousness. Anyways, but I'm going to go back to talking about the collective consciousness, right? There's a reason, right? There's a reason on why so many books, right, were basically given to us when we were in high school, right? One of those books, ironically, was 1984, right? And you guys probably, a lot of you have probably heard about it, right? But it's a really, really depressing book in many ways. And if you look at the 3D matrix today, you can already see a lot of that book playing out, okay, in real life, unfortunately, right? Whereas the truth is a lie, and lies become the truth, right? And that's just it's kind of like that's one of the ideas there, right? And another is whereas the humanity is controlled so much that every inch of humanity is squeezed out of them, right? They no longer they're just basically, in that book, they're extremely controlled, and they're not allowed to express themselves, and they're extremely divided, right? They're repressed, they're suppressed, and it's just a very, very scary book to read, to be honest with you, okay? But if you look at today's world, once again, right, you can already see all of this playing out in our real world, okay? This was especially apparent, right? And what opened up our vision even more, the 2020, right? The year 2020, perfect vision, right? We were actually, as soon as this pandemic happened, we were able to see how suppressed most of us really are, okay? And how we are actually not free. We're not as free as we all think we are, right? And so, if you haven't read this book, 1984, please read it, right? But of course, don't attach to it. Don't believe it for any second. This is the world that the controllers want us to be in, to live in. It's like the Bible, right, guys? It's like the Bible. I will go to the Bible now, right? I know I'm jumping back and forth here, right? But the Bible is also it's a religious text, right? That has been manipulated, right? It would be the first thing, you guys, are you kidding me, right? Ultimate absolute power corrupts, absolutely, right? So those in power, those that got the hand of even those that even perhaps, well, I believe it is a sacred text because a lot of the things in the Bible are truths, right? But the devil is in the details, right? And so that means that you have to look at the tiny details in order to be able to see whether all of it is the truth or not, right? And as I told you before in one of my podcasts, I think, Dr. Asher, right, he talked about a lot of discrepancies that were in the Bible, right? And he discusses those in detail, right? And I think his book is called The Soul Revolution, right? And then The Greater Exodus, right? Exodus, right? And he talks about a lot of discrepancies that were in the Bible. He discusses them in detail, right? And so you can check that book out if you like for yourself, right? But what I'm saying is that, if you want to know the truth, right, you're not just going to be it's not going to be handed to you on a platter, right? And if it is handed to you on a platter, then it's probably not the right thing for you guys, okay? So if you think you're just going to get to the truth just by going to church and reading the Bible, then I'm sorry. I hate to break this to you, but it's not going to happen, okay? Because if the Bible was entirely true, right? then guys, we would be living in a completely different world right now, okay? We would be living in a completely different and transformed world where we would ultimately be governed by God. We wouldn't need to have these wacky, insane, lunatic, narcissistic leaders who are praised and admired and who are ultimately leading us off the cliff. Okay, so so the Bible is a good guidebook to an extent, right? As long as you have discernment, as long as you are able to connect to your higher self and ask God, is this the truth? Do you feel it in your being that this is the truth, right? So this is where really it ultimately is up to you, right? So like with anything, guys, right? Even my videos, right? You can watch videos and just don't accept everything as the truth, right? Use your discernment, go within and question the information that you're presented, right? Even if it's religious text, even if it's especially if it's something like this, because the Bible is it's been changed so many times. It's been manipulated. And it's the first thing that would be targeted. If you want to control someone, right? Control their beliefs, right? Control their food, So yeah, your food, is going to be targeted, right? And your beliefs, your religious texts, right? Those will be the first to be manipulated, right? So I believe they were the first to be manipulated, right? So I wouldn't say that I'm a religious person, okay? In this sense, right? I'm more of a spiritual person, but I hate to put a label on what I am, right? Because I don't believe in labels. I believe labels hurt. I believe labels, we like to label everything, the human mind, we like to think in absolutes, right? So we like to place a label on something just to kind of to be able to predict the outcome, to be able to predict that particular person, right? Or that particular situation. It makes everything easier. It kind of relieves us of the stress of the unknown, right? But ultimately, guys, the human consciousness, we cannot be labeled, okay? We're everything and nothing at the same time. We are everything, okay? A human being that's awakened and that's awake and aware. We're ultimately always transforming. We're never the same, right? And we're always changing, right? Like the cells in our body, they're constantly dying and new ones are being born, right? So we're the same. Nothing in nature is stagnant. Nothing in nature is the same. Even trees are able to communicate amongst one another, right? To us they seem to be stagnant, but they're not. They're constantly growing and changing, right? And changing leaves, and the leaves fall off and then the new ones grow back, right? And so yeah, guys, same with the human being, same with our same with our I guess consciousness, right? It's always expanding, always evolving. And so this is exactly what has been happening, yeah, so let's go back to schools, right? There's a reason on why they give you certain movies to watch, certain books to read in school, right? School is who is it controlled by? First of all, it's controlled by the government, right? And the government, who is controlling the government, right? The government is controlled by the elites, right? It's controlled by elites. And the elites are controlled by who knows what, right? Which entities. Do you guys think that we're the only ones here? Do you think that, what we're seeing is actually real? Do you think everything that we're seeing is real? Most of the things that we're seeing are actually not real. A lot of things that we're seeing are illusions, a lot of people are coming up with theories that the things that we're seeing, it's simply a simulation, right? Some are saying that we're in a dream within a dream, right? So that this is all actually, it's just a dream, right? For example, like the idea of colors, right? Some are saying that even the colors that we're seeing, they're not the actual colors, So everything that you're seeing is an illusion, right? Even seeing yourself in the mirror, right? While you might look at yourself in a certain way in the mirror, right? Another person can be viewing you in a completely, basically in reverse, right? Or even looking at yourself and perceiving your weight or your size, right? Supposedly we most of us think that we're bigger than we actually are, right? And that's because of the way that our brain perceives our self-image or something like that, or our own size, right? But we're actually smaller than we actually perceive ourselves, right? And so anyway, what I'm saying is that everything is an illusion. And there are many examples of that. I can go on and on about those, right? But anyways, let's go back to the controllers of the world, right? So just because you're seeing a human being, right, doesn't necessarily mean that they're a human being, okay? It can be a completely different entity, just in a human form, perhaps, right? But I won't go into that in this video, right, guys? It's going to be too much in one video, right? But anyway, so the collective consciousness, right? The controllers of this world, they know perfectly well that if they manipulate the collective consciousness, right, then they can perfectly well get us to do whatever they want us to do, right? So if this is the world that they want for us, right, like as in the Bible, right? For example, in the Bible it's predicted that we're all going to receive the mark of the beast, right? Or most of us, rich and poor, right? It doesn't matter. Most of us will receive the mark of the beast, right? And we're going to ultimately, go to hell, right? Anyways, the idea of heaven and hell, the idea of heaven and hell, right? All I can say is that when you're living in the 3D world, you're already in hell, okay? You're living in fear, you're afraid about everything and anything, you're afraid of your human fellow beings, right? You think everything is a competition, right? You're extremely removed from yourself, from your true self, right? You're living in an illusion, nobody sees you, you feel invisible, right? Because everyone is just seeing your a created image of yourself, right, which is false. So you're already living in hell, okay? You're suffering, right? You're suffering because of the illusions that you've created, right? In the new 5D world, this is not how it is, right? All of that is removed, okay? You've the 5D world, right, or the expanded consciousness, through expanded consciousness, right, or through expanded awareness, you're able to kind of transcend and ultimately uplift, right? You're able to move past the illusions, right? But I'm going to go back to the collective consciousness, right? A collective consciousness can be manipulated, right? And the controls of this world, they know this perfectly well, right? How do they manipulate our consciousness? Through, by giving us certain books to read in high school, right? by making us watch certain films that mostly come out of Hollywood, right? By, playing out certain things on the news, right, in the mainstream news. So they're constantly trying to get us to look in a certain direction, right? Some might call it distraction, some might call it, predictive programming, right? But they're using all these manipulative tactics to get us to think a certain way and to get us to accept certain things that they want to see happen for humanity, okay? Ultimately, guys, the key is to move past this, to transcend, to go within, okay, and to not be afraid, and to not buy into the bullshit that they're trying to get us to accept, okay? They want us to stay in this lower state of consciousness because they're benefiting from it, they're ultimately benefiting from it because they're feeding on this fear, okay? They're feeding on fear. They need fear to survive, so we can't give them that, we have to control our own consciousness, and we have to redirect it into the direction that we want it to go, okay? And that's exactly what's been happening since, I believe, around 2012, when the Mayan calendar said that the world has ended, when in reality the new world has been rebirthed, okay? Or the coming of the Christ, right? The coming of the Christ consciousness, okay? So Christ is back, okay, guys? Christ is back. He has been back. Okay, most people don't even realize, especially the overly religious folks who think that Christ is going to come back physically, right? They're going to see Christ rise. I don't think yes, they're going to see it, and they're already seeing it, right? A lot of people, people that have been experiencing spiritual awakenings, right? That's exactly what they are. They're representations of the Christ consciousness in action through a human vessel, okay? So it's the Holy Spirit within each awakened individual that's now operating as the Christ consciousness. So Christ is back, okay, guys? Can every single person, can most of you awaken, right, and become a part of this higher consciousness world, the 5D world, right, and the 5-dimensional world? I don't believe that it's possible for everyone, but I think it's possible for most of us, especially if we really, really want to, all you have to do is all you have to do is really want it. You have to be a truth seeker, right? You have to know, you have to be able to find the truth, right? And you have to go within, you have to, there are so many things that you can do in order to become a part of that, I guess, world, and some of the things that you can do is you can go back to asking the question, let's go back to sin, right? Why do people sin, right? Why do people sin? It all comes down to purifying yourself, right? So if you want to become a part of this world, this new world, you have to purify yourself like Christ did, right? You have to purify yourself, and you have to and that goes back to asking yourself, why do I sin, right? And let's go, guys. I wrote down the 7 sins, right? So we're going to go over we're gonna go over into detail, okay, and why people sin, right? So there are supposedly seven deadly sins, right? ultimately it's the sins that are keeping us stuck in the 3D matrix, okay? And so if you want to transcend and ascend into a higher way or higher state of being, you have to move past the sinning, right? You have to move past the illusions, right, that we've created. You have to move past the the things that I'm going to talk to you about now, okay? Anyway, so let's look at the 7 sins, okay? So first one is pride, right? What's underneath pride, okay? Pride and vanity, right? When I would say that it's in full drive right now, right? And the reason being is because of social media, of course, right? It like kind of encourages you to post pictures of yourself, right? Instagram started with selfies, taking selfies, right? And it was all about me, right? Just take pictures of me, taking pictures of me here, taking a picture of me there, right? So, pride, it's actually, it's the opposite of, it's like self-obsession, right? Self-obsession is actually, it shows not self-love, it's actually, it shows a lack of self-confidence, okay? You have to take a lot of pictures, you have to look yourself in the mirror all the time. Do I look right? Do I look okay? It's like seeking constant validation from yourself, right? And from other people, right? Look at me. Do I look okay? Let me know how you like me, right? Give me some likes, am I the best or am I the best, right? So like, things like that, right? So it really actually pride, right, and vanity, it shows that the person actually has no real self-confidence, right? Because a person with real self-confidence, they're not going to really, they're not going to care too much about, about the way that they look, really. Yeah, of course it matters to an extent, right? But they're not going to be overly fixated on it, right? They're not going to be self-obsessed, right? A person with good self-confidence, they're going to have that balance, right? Whereas they look in the mirror, right, a little bit, okay, I look good, fine, okay. And then they go off to do their own thing, right? Anyway, so pride, right? So if you're overly vain, overly prideful, right, then you need to take a look at your self-confidence and why you lack confidence to begin with. Why are you seeking this validation, right? It usually comes from the fact that you don't feel good enough, okay? You don't feel worthy enough, you don't have enough self-love, basically, right? So a lot of things, right, when it comes to sinning, they come from lack of self-confidence, right, self-hatred, and the feeling of I'm not good enough, right? And that comes from childhood, and childhood wounds, right, which ultimately need to be healed, okay, and addressed. And so anyways, another one is the envy, right? Why are you jealous of other people, right? We're jealous usually of other people because we feel like we are not good enough. We feel like we don't have the skills, we don't have the capacities to do the same thing that other people are doing, right? So we get jealous, we start becoming envious of other people, right? Once again, it stems from a lack of self-confidence, lack of self-love, right? I'm not good enough, I want to be like someone else, right? Once again. Gluttony, right? Gluttony, excessive eating or drinking, right? Gluttony stems from unresolved emotions, okay? Emotional eating, right? So rather than addressing your emotions and how you're feeling on the inside, you're trying to compensate by, eating too much, right? So you have to address your emotions with gluttony, okay? Greed, right? Greed. So being greedy is really no faith, right? It's the inability to it's fear, living in fear, right? Living that in fear, in competition with others, right? Feeling like everyone is out to get you, feeling like nobody has got your back, that you're entirely on your own, right? Greed is really, it stems from, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, right? And it's just me and myself, me, myself, and I, right? We just have our back, and like, and it's just always going to be me, right? There's no higher power that's there's no higher power that's going to help me, right? If the situation calls for it, right? So really, it's lack of belief, right? It's lack of faith, and greed is really, it's a lack of heart too, to an extent too, right? So, it, if you're overly greedy, right? Try to get out of that fear-based mode and develop faith that there is a greater power, and that there's always enough, and that you're an abundant human being, okay? And we're all in this together, ultimately we're connected, right? We're all connected, and you really do feel this in the 5D world, okay? You feel this connection, even if you when you connect from within, right? Like through meditation, for example, you start feeling this connection, okay? Even if you don't know too many people in the room, you walk into a room and you feel like you're one with everyone else that's in the room, which is awesome. It's a great feeling, So anyway, lust, right? Lust is another one. Lust is really, it comes down to, operating in your lower animalistic nature, I would say, but also it comes down to not viewing one another as human beings. It's viewing one another as it comes down to a lack of self-discipline, right? Lack of control. But of course, some of these sexual feelings, I think, are very normal for many of us, right? But at the same time, so you can't, don't be overly harsh or judgmental with yourself if you look at someone in a lustful way, we're drawn to one another for a reason, right? And finding another human being like sexually attractive is okay, I think, but to an extent, right? But there's a problem with lust because we're viewing each other as sexual objects, basically, right? So develop that like innocence again, learn to view one another as a kid again, kids, like I said in one of my other videos, they view one another as like equals, right? And girls can talk to boys, boys can talk to girls, they might like one another, they might kiss each other on the cheek or something like this, right? Which is so cute if they really, really want to, right? But ultimately, they I don't know, they don't view each other as sex objects, right? So yeah. Anyways, another is sloth, right? So sloth. When you're overly lazy, right, it can come down to, just first of all, what are you feeding yourself? What kind of foods are you eating, right? A lot of foods can make us, can ultimately give us a lot of energy, right? And then, they can send our blood sugar up, right? And then it will crash back down like 30 minutes later, right? So it depends on what you're eating, right? Let's take a look at the foods. If you're feeling lazy, right? You can also feel really, really lazy and unmotivated because you lack purpose, right? And that's okay. Sometimes it takes a while to find your purpose, So yeah, there's that, right? Laziness can also come from, of course, not being really self-disciplined, so sports, like doing sports has taught me that self-discipline, so sometimes you do have to force yourself and develop certain habits, right, in order to stick to them for good, right? So sometimes you have to push through that initial laziness stage, I guess, or yeah. So sometimes you have to, if you're feeling lazy, you have to explore why, so there's that, right? And kind of address it, but once again, I gave you the reasons on why this can happen to you, right? So anyways, and last but not least is wrath, right? Anger. I'm guessing a lot of guys will have this problem, right? Because you guys are only like socially allowed to express your emotions through anger, right? Basically. But guys, anger is actually a secondary emotion, right? There's usually something else that's behind anger, okay? And that's usually like sadness, right? Fear of rejection or rejection, loneliness, and so on, right? So you explore on why you're angry, sometimes your boundaries are being pushed, right? And you're angry, and uh, yeah, so there's usually secondary. It's usually secondary emotion, right? There's usually primary emotion that's driving the anger, right? So explore that and address your emotions. Once again, with anger, with wrath. Okay. Anyways, guys, but I believe all of us, we can transcend and ascend, right? If we address all of this, if we stop sinning, right? If we go beyond and look beyond what's under sinning and why we sin, right? And then we can usually get to the bottom of our pain, and being in hell, basically. I don't think ultimately none of us want to be in hell, right? We want to ultimately transcend and ascend, and we want to live great lives. We want to feel good. We want to feel at peace, right? We want to live our life purpose, right? And I believe it's possible. We just like I said, we have to get in touch with ourselves. We have to purify ourselves. We have to look at why we're sinning, right? Look, guys, what ultimately causes us to sin, right, is the things that I already mentioned, right? But also it's pain, it's pain of unaddressed emotions, it's pain that comes from childhood, right? Childhood wounds. Usually, when we're sinning, we're trying to, it's pain from something, right? It's pain from not liking your job, right? Being in a bad relationship, right? And just living a miserable life that's devoid of purpose, right? So ultimately, it's pain that comes from something, right? It comes from, like I said, all of those things that I just mentioned, right? It can come from childhood wounds too, right? Pain from even being stuck in some kind of a vicious cycle, right? That you allow yourself to get into, right? That's why it's important to also address or to acknowledge when you're stuck in a vicious cycle with someone, with your family, with your coworkers, with your friends, right? Maybe it's not a vicious cycle, sorry, a toxic cycle, right? That's what I mean. A toxic cycle, right? It's like it's a cycle that like, for example, narcissists tend to pull people into those cycles, right? So they usually pull like codependents, right, into this cycle, or empaths, right, if you want to call them, because that dynamic is usually very popular, right, between an empath and a narcissist, right? But anyway, so if you just recognize if you are stuck in that kind of a cycle, because this cycle can keep you very, very in a very bad bad state. Basically, it will definitely lower your vibration, right? It will make you feel terrible about yourself. You will start to lose your self-esteem. Your inner qualities will start to suffer, basically, right? You're gonna lose all belief in yourself. You're gonna lose a lot of probably people in your circle, right? You're not going to want to be around anyone. Ultimately, it can lead to death, so it's very, very dangerous to be stuck in a cycle like that, okay? But it is a cycle, okay? And why I'm saying it's a cycle, because there are stages, right? There's, the first stage is like the hoovering, right? Or, no, sorry, the idealization, right? Whereas you get idolized, right? Then it's the devaluation, right? That's when the narcissist takes off their mask, they start putting you down, right? Out of nowhere, right? And then it's the discard, right? They discard you, they tell you to go away, or they treat you like garbage, right? And basically they can dump you in this stage, right? And then hoovering, right? Once they come back around, they start apologizing, and the whole cycle starts all over again, right? So anyways, you have to recognize this toxic cycle, right? If you are in one, because the cycle can definitely keep you in that 3D world, right? It can keep you stuck in that 3D world, whereas you will be unable to really ascend or transcend into a higher way of living, right, and being. It's a huge distraction, basically, guys. That's why you have to be really, really careful when it comes to relationships, right, with other people. They're extremely, extremely important and imperative because of that reason, okay? I'm not saying that every relationship will be like a toxic relationship, right? But you have to recognize when you are in a toxic relationship like this, that's in a cycle, basically, okay? That goes in a cycle, right? And you have to get out, okay? You have to get out. And in order to get out, you have to choose yourself, It's really about self-love, self-acceptance, right? And if you don't choose yourself, you're going to you're going to continue on that wild and cruel and torturous roller coaster ride, that you don't want to be in, basically, right? So anyways, so there's that, right? There's that. So let's go back to pain, right? So recognize that pain, right? Because sinning, once again, we are tempted to sin when we're in pain, right? Some kind of a pain. You feel shitty about your dead-end job, right? And you don't have any time off, you don't have any energy. So what do you do during the weekend? You want to forget about it. You want to pretend that everything is okay. You're going to go clubbing, right? You're going to go clubbing. You're going to party your ass off. You're going to get drunk, right? You're going to, I don't know, maybe engage in some more sin, right? By having one-night stands with someone, right? All of this is ultimately destroying you completely, okay? It's destroying you from within. It's destroying you from without, okay? And you don't want to basically do that, okay? Or maybe you will choose to do drugs, right? Drugs will do the same. Maybe you want to take a little bit of E, right? Maybe you will take a little bit of X, right? Ecstasy. What ecstasy does, right, is it, instead of giving you, adding endorphins to your body, right? It depletes your own natural endorphins, okay? It doesn't give you endorphins, it depletes your own endorphins that are already in your body, okay? And why does the pill start working, right? Maybe you want more. You try another one, it doesn't give you the same effect. You try another one, it has no effect, right? Because your body needs time in order for your endorphins to go back to normal, okay, and to be restored again. Endorphins are feel-good chemicals, right, or hormones. And so, yeah, and while you've depleted your own endorphins, on the next day, that's why you end up feeling like crappity crap, right? Because you've depleted your own body's resources. It's kind of like with caffeine, right? Caffeine takes the energy out of your body. It doesn't give you energy, okay? So drugs, right, guys? It's a drug too, right? So drugs, guys, they're going to end. It's a form that a lot of people resort to when they're feeling all this pain from all these different places that they haven't addressed, right? Maybe all of these emotions that they're trying to hide, they're trying to run away from. So, you end up taking drugs, right? To numb the pain, to not feel anything, to escape. That's not the answer, guys. Okay, it's no longer the answer. Okay, in order to move into this 5D world, in order to transcend and ascend into the Christ consciousness, you have to address your emotions. You have to heal from whatever pain you're experiencing. And you have to be willing to give up sin, okay? And in order to give up sin, you have to look what's causing you to sin, okay? What is causing you to sin? Why are you sinning? What is it that you're not addressing? Okay, guys, I hope you've really enjoyed this video. So much love to you, and I love you guys so much. Have a good one. See you soon.